Barely a week goes by now without the world being reminded that Canada has become a woke laughingstock. And when I say laughingstock, I'm serious. Some stories, as ridiculous as they are, and despite how apparent of a symptom they are of how thoroughly the woke rot has kind of permeated through Canada's institutions until we're basically termites holding hands, they are still really funny as well. So this one happened earlier this month. On October 7, the Vancouver Park Board unanimously passed a motion to apologize for all the pain and all the suffering that they had caused to Vancouver's LGBT community, as well as Canada's LGBT community. Now, you might wonder what happened, right? Maybe a hate crime, something serious for sure, because there was counselors breaking down in tears at this Vancouver Park Board meeting. And when I mean counselors, I mean like these are adult people who have presumably gone all the way through puberty, experienced things in their life, encountered grief and things like that. But this was something else, because as it turns out, Stanley Park was hosting a Harry Potter themed attraction. And it was called Harry Potter, A Forbidden Forest Experience. The title ended up being far more on the nose than the people planning the attraction actually counted on. And because author J.K. Rowling is opposed to gender ideology, a media-driven campaign launched by LGBT activists kind of forced the Vancouver Park Board to hold a sniveling display of regret while they apologized for permitting this to happen. Now, the funny thing about this kind of stuff is the extent to which Canada's national conversation is totally dominated by a handful of people. So you have a couple of LGBT activists and LGBT NGOs, most of which are funded by the government to begin with, who announce that something is an issue. This gets reported to the taxpayer-funded press. The press then covers the issue as if it's an issue that normal people care about. And then that forces the politicians who are also funding these organizations to respond, and then you get the kind of scene that unfolded earlier this month. So the Canadian press reported on this with the utmost solemnity. CTV News wrote the following. This is great. I can't believe people get paid for this stuff. Members of the city's transgender, gender diverse, and two-spirit communities had expressed concerns about the decision to partner with this event this holiday season due to its association with J.K. Rowling, author of the 7 Harry Potter novels. Those are, as you might know, children's novels that were made into children's movies. But she's also a best-selling author of a whole string of books. Her most recent book that came out earlier this fall went straight to the top of the Times bestseller list. She turns out to be doing just fine. And so the international press was actually struggling to conceal its contempt for this whole thing. The Daily Mail's report, the Daily Mail is a UK newspaper, was titled, "Woke Lawmaker Sobs and Apologizes for City Hosting Transphobic Harry Potter Event After Enraged J.K. Rowling Critics Demanded its cancellation." We're a fundamentally unserious country, and anybody who doesn't live here can see it. Because this is the sort of thing that if you were bawling about this as a kid, your dad would just tell you to grow up, and he should. And so here's a quote from the Daily Mail, which is just a great paragraph, because the guy covering this for the international press cannot even conceal his overt contempt for the Commonwealth partner that he is commenting on. A Liberal Vancouver lawmaker choked back tears as he apologized for the city's decision to host a Harry Potter event after it was branded transphobic. Scott Jensen agreed with the members of the LGBTQ plus community who claimed it was offensive to host the magical-themed forest walk in light of Rowling's attitude towards trans people. He became emotional as he addressed those who voiced their concerns at a park board meeting, telling them, "I've been really moved by your words, the lived experiences, the hurt, and so on behalf of myself, I do apologize." There is almost nothing more nauseating than adult men sobbing their apologies to gender-confused men, identifying as women, and promising the LGBT community that they will never again submit them to the trauma of having a children's theme park featuring one of the most popular children's franchises of the last century because the author of the books just doesn't think that men can become women. It is truly embarrassing, and you do kind of wonder if some of the people that are sobbing are taking some estrogen themselves. Now, the city of Vancouver has been fixated on these LGBT policies for years. So that in 2016, they unveiled their transgender, gender diverse, and two-spirit action plan. And the LGBT group community sniveled that it is in part because of that trust that has been cultivated over these years. The news of this event was met with such intense shock and disappointment. You have to be heartless not to laugh at this stuff. To be clear, again, the intense shock and disappointment was because of a Harry Potter children's adventure being held in Stanley Park, a children's theme park. It is difficult to come up with a scenario more pathetic than this. And then, of course, they also brought up Trump's policies, because why not? The current prime minister literally is prime minister because he ran against Trump. But somehow everything that happens in Canada, whenever somebody with basic common sense stands up and is like, hey, maybe that's too far. Maybe adult men shouldn't be crying at Vancouver Park Board meetings over a children's themed show. And yet Trump is somehow responsible for all of this. Commissioner Tom Digby went so far as to ask the board to reaffirm its support for inclusionary policies and to ensure the 2S LGBTQ plus advisory committee is consulted on any future events with equity or human rights implications, which is apparently what we're facing with the Fantasy Forest Harry Potter event in Stanley Park. The Harry Potter thing is apparently one of those events, and on October 8, Digby posted on X last night, the park board did the right thing, apologized to the TG2S community after an emotional discussion, shared some tears, disavowed JKR, will undertake concrete actions to rebuild trust. This is, it must be emphasized, it cannot be emphasized too much, an adult male referring to a children's Harry Potter event who shared some tears and then disavowed J.K. Rowling. And then each commissioner at the Vancouver Board Park meeting individually apologized to the trans community and promised that this would never happen again. This being the enchanted forest, forbidden forest, very forbidden forest, apparently. Rowling, however, apparently, so I don't know why trans activists think it's a good idea to go after J.K. Rowling. She is one of the best-selling writers alive, and yet they consistently think it's a good idea to go after somebody who makes crafting language her business. And so she just thoroughly enjoys all of this. And so she reposted Tom Digby's sanctimonious post with the caption, "To be honest, I didn't even know Vancouver Parks and Recreation had avowed me, so the disavowal hasn't been much of a blow. Next time, send me a certificate of avowal, wait until I've proudly framed it, hung over my PC, taken a selfie with it, and then revoke it." When someone jokingly commented that she might never recover from this, Rowling responded, "I wouldn't say never, but with time, therapy, and the support of my family, I anticipate that I'll be able to hear the words Vancouver Parks and Recreations without suffering a serious breakdown within 2 to 3 years." No. Or as another commentator noted, a safe space is now somewhere a man can expose himself in front of women, but nobody can talk about Harry Potter, which is a bit on the nose. Now, I know this is a small story, but you cannot help but read this and think almost 2,000 years of Western civilization. And this is where leadership has devolved to, right? 2,000 years of blood, sweat, and tears of constructing great cathedrals and perfecting democracy and writing great works of literature. And where does it end? With Tom Digby sniveling in front of a bunch of trans activists, disavowing a children's author, and promising that this is never going to happen again. This children's theme park right next to the Vancouver Aquarium. Sharing tears and disavowing a female author because she doesn't think men in dresses are women. Now, the ancestors that Digby no doubt despises as transphobes are lucky not to be around to see him. Imagine what his forebears would think of that display. But at least all of this triggered the response to from J.K. Rowling, that we all got to enjoy together. Thank you all for listening. We hope you found the commentary helpful. And if you did, please do like the video, drop a comment in the comment section to engage in the conversation. We're always interested in hearing your thoughts. And of course, if you found it helpful, please do share the video on whatever platforms that you are on. You can also find this show wherever else you download your podcast content. Thanks again so much for watching.